How's it going, everybody? So, there are dozens, if not hundreds of videos out there from people outlining what is wrong with Battlefield 2042. All the legacy features, the hit rate, the nightmare console players have with crossplay. This video won't be one of them. I want to look at the whole dumpster fire from a little bit of a different angle. And that is the way how EA and DICE used marketing to steer the perception of the game pre-launch, and then how they're utilizing social media now, since it all blew up in their faces. I think there's something that we all can learn here, and I'm not claiming that I've unveiled some secret conspiracy or some nonsense, far from it. But yeah, let's get started, so let me put on my tinfoil hat real quick. One of the narratives that the community pushes is the following. EA and DICE are completely out of touch with their player base. They do not know what the players want. And I think that this is completely wrong. They know exactly what the core Battlefield fan wants. They simply think that they know better in what would translate into even more sales on top of the already established base. Let me explain why I think so. Their whole pre-launch marketing showcases this brilliantly, from the trailer to interviews or articles on websites. We've heard statements like, a love letter to the fans, or multiplayer is what we do best. They've put it on thick early on. Let's take the trailer first and then look at an interview with the team that made that very trailer and what words and phrases they used. Because one thing that people need to remember is that these marketing campaigns are very well planned out. And this includes answers to interviews. They don't come up with these on the spot. Also, keep in mind that the main trailer premiered on June 9th in 2021. This was before any gameplay footage was officially shown. Nothing that was shown in this trailer would indicate that a long-term Battlefield fan would not enjoy this game. It was heavily nostalgia based, with the quad ramming into the Nightbird, a Rendezvous. They even played up Levolution. The infantry play looked way more dark and gritty compared to what we have now. They even predicted the amount of bots in each lobby. There wasn't a single cheesy line from a specialist, no cowboy hat, nothing of that sort. Now, let's look at the previously mentioned interview. I'll quote a few things. Links to all sources will be down in the video description, so if you want to read the whole thing, you can check it out afterwards. What some of our competitors do is produce trailers in CG that have very little to do with the game experience itself. We always want to lead with the game. Now, is that so? Your competitors do this. Notice the wording of the whole thing. They are presenting themselves in a different light, in a way even segregating themselves from the riffraff that is the rest of the industry. Strictly speaking, the trailer isn't lying. Everything that is shown is in the game. But everyone who has played the game knows that the trailer presents a very distorted reality of a match in Battlefield 2042. In the interview, they move on with explaining the length of the whole trailer making process. I rendered the final version of the trailer in May. All in all, about a 10-month production, our longest yet. Now put this into perspective of what we know about the development process of the game. How the design approach was changed multiple times throughout the years. From Battle Royale to whatever Hazard Zone is, to this shell of a Battlefield game that we have now. It's all laid out in Tom Henderson's video. My point here is that very soon after shifting to the final design for the game, have they realized that marketing needs to be on point to somehow salvage this. This trailer has all the bells and whistles on it to distract from what's about to come. I doubt we'll ever see the numbers, but I'm really curious how many pre-orders happened based on the trailer alone. Then came the gameplay reveal and eventually the beta, and the postponing of the release happened. There's not much that can be done here to sway the first impression of players. Oh, it's a 3-month-old build, everything will be better come release. It's lies, no matter what studio says this, so I won't be blaming EA here. They all do it. The worst part is the players that parrot these empty statements. Players have done this 20 years ago, and they will do it 20 years from now, I guess. Which brings me to another important aspect during that time approaching the release of the game. Obviously, the developer promises to fix everything and it will be a stellar product in the end. You know, they postponed the release date after all. You can look through the official EA forums, Twitter posts and so on. Ahead of schedule being the biggest lie of them all. Now, even if many might not want to hear this, but Reddit plays a really important part when it comes to marketing and has long become a staple platform for community managers of games. Reddit is an independent platform, or it should be. Riot Games has repeatedly shown that this is not the case, but this video is about EA and I don't know enough about the moderators on the Battlefield subs to pass any judgment at all here. We're just working under the assumption that they're not in EA's pocket. The fact that Reddit is regarded as an independent platform has its good and bad sides. For one, you'd expect that the general presentation of a game's subreddit is shaped by the users itself and not the studio behind the game, as it obviously is with the official forums. Developers use their Twitter and other social media accounts to communicate with their fan base. All these tweets are heavily curated. I will come back to this point when we talk about Andy McNamara's tweets. It is a very common thing for these tweets to be posted to the subreddits and upvoted there. Communication from the devs is always welcome, and since it's all sunshine and rainbows, considering most of them were lies, the community was pretty happy. The accounts posting said tweets often don't have any other engagement on Reddit, and more often than not go dormant after release. Am I now implying that these studios have multiple unaffiliated accounts and try to steer the perception of the game? How could I? What an absolute shocker, nobody could have seen this. Marketing plays such a huge role in the success of a product that people need to start being a little more skeptical about things like that. But let's move forward. The shit show of a release happened and it's time for damage control. While they were pretty active before Christmas, the inevitable 3 to 4 week break was about to come and it became pretty evident that the pre-Christmas scrambling wasn't enough to keep the masses happy or, more important, quiet. So after the Christmas break, the brutal expectations meme came to be. While I absolutely agree that these folks need their vacation and there wouldn't have been much progress anyways if they were forced to work during that time. Just a bunch of disgruntled employees basically. But EA and DICE decided to use this opportunity to distort the narrative again. Here are the McNamara tweets in case you haven't seen them. First the allegations towards the community, then the deletion of these tweets, then the apology in the style of "I'm sorry that you were offended." Classic. Initially when I saw these tweets I thought they were extremely tone deaf and showed a lack of understanding of why the community was upset. Because I'm sure there were some rotten eggs demanding them to work over Christmas and threatening them and all that. Many gamers are absolute degenerates, there's no denying that. But let's look closer, put another layer of aluminum on the hat. What's the man's title in the company? Global Director of Integrated Communications for Shooters and Star Wars. This man is in charge of the whole comms thing. He's not some early 20-year-old kid in community management that got annoyed by the fans. Nah, this guy sits at the top. You don't get there being an incompetent twat. At least that's what I'm assuming here. Nepotism can't be that bad in the industry, right? So why would someone like that make such a stupid tweet? Yes, you guessed right, it's once again to steer the narrative. Most people have used the word gaslighting here. It's the community's fault with their brutal expectations and them not being grateful enough for the wonderful product that they've delivered. So naturally, the subreddit exploded with jokes about these tweets and whatnot. And within a day, we have multiple gaming websites put out articles that the subreddit is about to be closed down because of toxicity. The moderators threatened with this and it was immediately picked up and articles were made. Like Kotaku, that shit stain of a website. I'm not going to bother reading any of these, it is pure drivel. Quoting comments with 0 upvotes just to push a certain agenda. From a journalistic or editorial standpoint, how do these even get released? Do you make an article every time some random cretin on Reddit posts some nonsense that could be vaguely construed as toxic towards a game dev? If it was just one, I'd say it's a coincidence or a slow day on that website's editorial department. But multiple of them, all at once? Come on. This just doubles down on the initial premise that EA is trying their hardest to distract from the actual issues that the game is facing, and instead put the limelight on the community and the toxicity. The poor, oppressed developers. How could those gamers do that to them? Expecting a finished game? That's preposterous. So why even do this? Why the whole charade? The public's perception is important. It is very important actually. To the shareholders, that is. I see this claim a lot, so let's actually look at the stock price of EA, including some of the biggest dips in the last few years, so we have a better picture when and why these happened. Let's start with 2042 then. What has the game done to the stock price? Within a month of release, it has seen a fall of 11%. While not great, this isn't nearly as bad as what could be observed in the past. Let's look at the last quarter of 2018. Battlefield 5's release and the biggest drop in stock price for the company in over a decade. 24.5% in October alone. Here's a quote from the article. But management's weak outlook given during the company's second quarter earnings report in late October didn't sit well with investors. So it were the higher ups themselves that made it look worse than it actually is that resulted in that dip. Well, obviously not solely. There are so many other factors that play a role, including Battlefield 5 sale performances, but I picked this sentence specifically to highlight what I've been trying to bring home this whole video. The public's and the shareholders' perception of what is going on instead of what's actually going on with the game. Everything EA is currently doing is try to convince their investors that things are going fine. Or at least it's not their fault. This house of cards will obviously crumble once the quarterly reports are coming in and people take a closer look, but at the moment they are doing their best to protect their stock price. There's obviously the side effect that we gamers feel lied to with statements like these. We couldn't be more passionate about this game and will be supporting and evolving it for years to come. It's EA, for fuck's sake. They've said this shit with Anthem and they've said it with BF5 weeks before cutting support. This isn't anything new and it shouldn't be surprising to anyone. In BF 2042's case, they dug their own little grave as they've promised at least a year of content, which they've already sold. All you poor lads that paid for the $100 or euro or whatever version. It now remains to be seen how much effort EA is willing to put into these battle passes. How much content was held back but is already finished. Maybe the whole year is already done for the most part. Drip feeding in live service games is very common after all. But yeah, let's wrap it up. I think it's important that people realize that marketing is a very powerful tool on many different levels. It might affect you differently than the person it was actually aimed at, but if more people tried to see the bigger picture, these companies would have to start to be a little smarter about what they're doing. It's sad that 2042 wasn't the beacon of light to warm us gamers in this harsh cold winter, but the dumpster fire they gave us will do the trick for a while. Let me know what you think. Where did I go off the rails, or where should I have looked even closer? Hope the video was interesting. Thanks for watching. Laters everybody.